All right, here we go. The final part of my reaction to the Republican debate. Let's see what they have to talk about for the next last half hour of the debate. Now, so far, I don't know. I'm not really impressed with the topics that they brought up, um, like TikTok and LGBT um, issues, and I mean, just things that just I won't say they don't matter, but they don't matter as much as other things that are going on right now. Not nearly as much, actually. And for them to be brought up on the national stage, if this is what people are concerned about right now, like I don't know what to say, but there's definitely like other issues that are like need to be talked about during this debate, but they weren't. So I don't know what they're going to talk about for the last half hour. We'll just see. But like so far, um, I mean, the last debate, the first debate that I reacted to was, I think, a little better in terms of what they were talking about. The issues were more important. They were more relevant to um, the matters that we're facing today. But with this debate, not really so much. I mean, there were some topics that were important, but like for the most part, I'm not really impressed with this second debate. But uh, let's see what they have to talk about for the remainder of it. I'm going to react to all of it.
Questions to go. So let's dive right back in. We're here in California, where gas is nearing $6 a gallon. Oil is close to $100 a barrel again. You say, drill, baby, drill. But the courts won't let you. Mr. Ramaswamy, how would you bring down prices without immediate drilling?
Well, look, I think that we do have to run through the courts and get through that administrative state to make sure we're using the natural resources here at home. But here's the other thing that we can do that's easy
forever, Mr. Ramaswamy.
and it addresses the national debt as well as brings down prices. Put people back to work. We are using taxpayer money to pay people more to stay at home than to go to work. That is wrong. That contributes to our supply chain crisis. It contributes to inflation. That's the easiest way to unlock this economy. And here's the other thing. We have to put the Federal Reserve back in its place. This is an agency that has gone rogue. So in January 2026, when I have the opportunity as their next commander in chief, we will have a new chairman of the Federal Reserve who places priority on dollar stability. And then most importantly, send packing 75% of the administrative state, reduce the federal employee headcount by 75%, rescind 50% of unconstitutional federal regulations that are shackling businesses, both large and small. I've offered a very clear, practical plan to do it. That's how we unleash the economy. That's how we revive the integrity of a three-branch constitutional republic rather than this technocracy and aristocracy in the administrative state.
Response, please.
I think one of the signature accomplishments of our administration was in just a few short years, we achieved energy independence. We became a net exporter of energy for the first time in 75 years. But on day one, Joe Biden declared a war on energy, which was no surprise because when Joe Biden ran for president, he said he was going to end fossil fuels. And they've been working overtime to do that ever since. If I'm president of the United States, we're going to open up federal lands. We're going to unleash American energy. We're going to have an all of the above energy strategy. And I have a plan that actually would not only reclaim energy independence, but in 2006, America lost our position as the leading energy producer on earth. I believe in the next 10 years, with the right policies and experienced leadership in the White House, we can reclaim our role as the leading energy producer on earth, and that'll grow the American economy for generations to come.
Governor Haley, reaction to that, please.
The person who's leading an energy state, could I answer the energy question?
No, Governor Haley. So, the first thing I'll say is what I saw at the United Nations is energy security is national security. We need a president that understands we have to partner with our producers and make sure that we have their backs. What you don't need is a president who is against energy independence. Ron DeSantis is against fracking. He's against drilling. He's been against, you did it. He always talks about what happens on day one. You better watch out, because what happens on day 2 is when you're in trouble. Day 2 in Florida, you banned fracking, you banned offshore drilling, you did it on federal lands, and you took green subsidies that you didn't have to take.
Governor DeSantis, you were mentioned. You have the right to respond. 30 seconds.
Yeah. I just did a plan out in West Texas for American energy dominance. We're going to choose Midland over Moscow. We're going to choose the Marcellus over the Mullahs, and we're going to choose Bakken over Beijing, and we are going to lower your gas prices. We are going to get that job done because it's important for our national security, it's important for jobs, and that's one of the best ways to drive down inflation.
Governor DeSantis, Governor DeSantis, this question is for you.
Our voters enacted a constitutional
You
amendment
banned it before they
doesn't
voted.
allow. No, it's not true.
You banned it before they voted, and
Nikki,
not only that, fracking they didn't
she's
vote on
just totally
fracking.
wrong. They voted it
Check
in.
it.
That's
Check
what we
it.
did. Onshore, we do it in Florida. We don't have as much as maybe West Texas, but we do it. But that was a constitutional. So that's just wrong. And let's just get real here. My plan will get the job done. We are going to be energy dominant, and that's what's going to happen.
The voters didn't even vote on fracking. You banned
We are
fracking.
moving on with this question for Governor DeSantis. Governor, excuse me, we cannot talk over each other. We must respect each other's time. My apologies for that.
I'm ready, Stu.
Governor DeSantis, this is your question. The Biden administration is hell-bent on student loan forgiveness, but you say colleges should be on the hook when graduates cannot pay their debt. How does that address the cost of college? The cost of college itself?
Because the colleges are going to have to make a decision. Do we expand the gender studies department, knowing some of those graduates may not have great learning opportunities? No. They're going to focus on the things that really matter. They're going to make different choices. They're going to try to graduate people in 4 years. I also just want to come back to something Dana asked last segment about 9/11.
So what does it mean by the colleges are on the hook if the students can't pay? Like the colleges should be held responsible if the students can't pay off their student loan debt? I'm not sure if that's what he was getting at, but if that's the case, I believe that the colleges shouldn't be, because they're not forcing their students to take out these loans. Their students are choosing to come to their college, and if they do their research beforehand, like I do, as a college student, like I look up the financial aid that's available. I look at how much tuition is every semester or every year or whatever. And I make decisions based on what I've researched. Now, so these students are making these decisions on their own to take out these loans so they can go to these colleges. Nobody's forcing them to do it. So these colleges shouldn't be held responsible for decisions that somebody else made, that they didn't make these decisions for them. So I'm kind of confused as to where this is going, because I am aware of Biden's plan that the Supreme Court shot it down. So now he's trying to come up with other alternatives since the Supreme Court shot it down. But yeah, I don't know what the colleges have to do with paying student loan debt. Now what they can do is stop overcharging tuition, stop raising the price up so much where their students can barely afford to go to their college. They can stop doing that. They should be held accountable for that. But as far as student loan debt in itself, they shouldn't. Well, I mean, they kind of are, they still shouldn't be held responsible for paying off the debt. But I will say maybe they are kind of responsible, because if they weren't charging so much tuition, then their students wouldn't have to take out so much money to go to their college. And so maybe it is kind of a cycle in that way. The more they charge, the more students are going to have to take out, and then the more the student loan debt increases. So yeah, I mean, in that way they are responsible. If they lower the tuition, students will take out less money. Then they can pay off their remaining balance. But since that's not happening, then yeah, they are kind of responsible in that way. But I mean, I don't know if the college itself should be paying off these debts. The students should still be paying off the debt, because again, they chose they chose to go to this college. They chose to take out the money to go out to the college. So therefore, the debt responsibility should solely be on the student. How they're going to pay for the debt, that's up to them. But the sole responsibility should still be placed on the student themselves.
Just at the 9/11 memorial with the families, my wife and I were invited. It's very touching to be there, and it affected my life because I ended up joining the military as a result of that. I've been a blue collar kid, minimum wage in Dunedin, Florida. I ended up getting through Yale and Harvard Law School, and somehow came out more conservative than when I went in, and that is not easy to do. Had a lot of opportunities to make money, but I wanted to serve, and I'll never forget coming back on the plane from Iraq, landing in Coronado, California, North Island, and feeling that breeze off the Pacific Ocean and say, you know what? I am lucky to have been born in America. And I think being able to serve, and I'll be the first president elected since 1988 who's actually served overseas in a war. I think that's going to help me as commander in chief to know how you see these issues and understand that there are real lives at stake for people that wear the uniform.
And we know that Governor Haley's husband is serving right now as well, and we thank him for that. Senator Scott, the national debt has nearly doubled in your time in office. The approval rate for Congress is at a mere 19%. If this were a business, you'd probably all be fired in Washington, but you're here tonight looking for a promotion. In 2013, Governor Haley hired you for the Senate. I'd like you to tell her why you should be promoted to CEO of the nation instead of her.
Oh, not this ad again. I also want to go back while waiting for this ad to play out. So they're moving on, but I wanted to go back and add that I don't want to sound hypocritical when I say the students should be, because the students should pay off their debt. But I was proponent for Biden's student loan canceling the debt, because and the reason why I don't want to sound hypocritical is because somebody has to pay for that, and it won't be me. That's why I was for his plan, because then I wouldn't have to worry about it. But I mean, I still acknowledge that I have to pay off the debt. I still acknowledge that it's my debt and I have to pay it off. I'm not saying that I shouldn't have to pay it off, because I should. But if I could get some help with it, then I get some help with it. But yeah, I just don't want to sound like I'm saying, I don't want to sound hypocritical with anything. Got about 20 more minutes.
Certainly. One of the things I'd say is if you look at our national debt of $33 trillion, I would love to have an opportunity to have this country pass a balanced budget amendment. That would constrain the spending in Washington in the same fashion that it does in every state in our nation, number one. Number two, if you want to actually reduce our national debt, you have to grow our economy. In order to grow our economy, you need to create about 10 million jobs to grow our economy at 5%. You can do that in three specific sectors. Number one, the energy sector. We could create between 3 and 3.5 million jobs if we unleashed all of our energy resources. America is we're the richest country if you combine coal, gas, and oil. Why not unleash all of our resources? Number two, we've lost 100,000 factories. 100,000 factories in the last 25 years. If we continued on my Made in America plan, we could bring jobs back to America in a similar fashion that we did when I wrote the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. We actually lowered the corporate tax from 35% to 21%, reshored or repatriated $1.7 trillion. We brought the unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians to the lowest level in the history of the country, and a 70-year low for women. Governor Haley, would you think you would deserve the promotion over him?
Look, I appreciate Tim. We've known each other a long time, but he's been there 12 years and he hasn't done any of that. He hasn't. They've only given 4 budgets on time in 40 years. He was part of that. He increased the national debt. He voted for the spending. He has made sure that the borders are open and they haven't done anything. Look at everything that's happened. 12 years. Where have you been? Where have you been, Tim? 12 years. We've waited and nothing has happened.
Here's what you've done.
Here's the thing that I just find interesting.
Ron, let me finish
All
this.
these guys have said
Here's the
things,
fact.
and I appreciate a lot of the things they're saying.
Nikki
I'm
Haley.
the only one up here who's gotten in the big fights and has delivered big victories for the people of Florida, and that's what it's all about. You can always talk, but when it gets hot in there, when they're shooting arrows at you, are you going to be stand up for parents' rights, keep the state free? Are you going to be able to do all those things? And in the state of Florida, because of our success, the Democratic Party lies in ruins. We have won the big fights. We have turned our state into a Republican state. People respond to leadership. I've done it while others have talked about it.
CEO, we actually have a CEO in the White House, which is what I think we need. If I may just briefly interject here, we need a zero-based budgeting. That's the way businesses are actually run. Start with zero as the baseline for the budget, and then see what's actually necessary. There isn't a blue state or a red state in this union that does it. The federal government doesn't do it. But successful companies, including the ones that I've built as a CEO, will do it. And I think we need a CEO in the White House to get that done.
Governor Burgum runs a state that way. Yes, go ahead.
You didn't ask the only guy that's been attacked. You have energy questions. You don't ask anything. But I'm just going to say right now, when you say nobody else has done it, the energy plans that have all been announced in the last month by these other folks on stage, we're already doing it in North Dakota. The border plans they're already talking about, we've got troops down at the border flying helicopter missions from North Dakota, from San Diego to the Gulf Coast, trying to stop transnational criminal organizations from inflicting the invasion and the mass.
I just want to say, nobody wants to let Ramaswamy talk. Like, everybody keeps interrupting him. Probably because he's the one making, like, the most sense out of all the so-called candidates up here. I mean, like I said in the last one, I'm kind of rooting for him, but like I said, I'm still voting for President Trump as like the main, and he's still like the main GOP candidate out of all of them, and I'm still voting for him. I'm not voting for any of them, but it's not to say like that I don't agree with any of them. And Ramaswamy is one of them that I do agree with, but he's just getting like interrupted a lot. I've noticed during this debate, and yeah, this is probably because like he's making a lot of sense.
Casualties in our state. And on the energy policy, we're already doing it. It's not saying nobody else done the big fights. North Dakota was leading the charge. We won the battle to get the Biden administration, who was ignoring the law. They were the first administration since Truman that wasn't holding the quarterly required lease sales, and we won that in federal court. Lotus, we won that in federal court. We're fighting the Biden administration on 20 fronts. To say that nobody's fighting the big fights, just look at the record of what we're doing right now. Energy, economy, national security have been talking about it since day one, and now finally, good, we're having the conversation about it, but we've got the answer in North Dakota.
Governor Burgum, let's talk big government. This question's for you. Big government keeps getting bigger. 1/5 of all new jobs this year have been created by the government. Governor Burgum, you say you want to shrink the size of government.
I gotta
but it has been a
plug up my
century
laptop.
since any president has done that. Why would you be any different?
Well, because we've done it in North Dakota. When I took office, we shrunk the state budget general fund by 27% in the first 4 months I was office, and all the trains still running on time. Why? Because you had a business leader that was actually there. Inside of every government job, there's 10 or 20% of mind-numbing, soul-sucking work that even the state and federal employees don't want to do, and you can engineer that work out of the job. That would free up right there 20% of 2 million civilian employees. And by the way, we've got 10 million jobs open. They'd have plenty to do, and they could be generating taxes instead of being paid by taxes. This is totally possible to do it if you have somebody that understands. Because having worked in technology for 30 years, everything we had to do was to be better, faster, and cheaper the next day. That's what we can do in government. That's what we're doing in North Dakota.
All right. Governor DeSantis, I want to ask you about something that I think is on a lot of Republicans' minds. This election could come down to less than 50,000 votes in 3 states. Abortion was on the ballot in 6 states in 2022. Republicans lost all of them. Next year, abortion will likely be on the ballot in Arizona. That is a must-win state. Governor DeSantis, how are you going to win over independent, pro-choice voters in Arizona?
Same way we did in Florida. We won the greatest Republican victory in a governor's race in the history of the state, over 1.5 million votes. We were winning places like Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach, that nobody thought was possible because we were leading with purpose and conviction. I reject this idea that pro-lifers are to blame for midterm defeats. I think there's other reasons for that. The former president, he's missing in action tonight. He's had a lot to say about that. He should be here explaining his comments to try to say that pro-life protections are somehow a terrible thing. I want him to look into the eyes and tell people who've been fighting this fight for a long time. My wife and I earlier today were at the gravesite of President and Mrs. Reagan, and I noticed that there was a quote where it says, every single person has purpose and worth. We're better off when everybody counts. And I think we should stand for what we believe in. I think we should hold the Democrats accountable for their extremism, supporting abortion all the way up until the moment of birth. That is infanticide, and that is wrong.
Let me ask Governor Christie. Governor Christie, do you think that Republicans...
Yes, I will.
Okay, Governor Christie, do you think that Republicans can do that in Arizona if this referendum is on the ballot there?
Yeah, because I did it in New Jersey, Dana.
Then why are all these other states losing?
Well, because they don't have leaders in those states who are leading the fight the way it should be led. And the fact is, look, I was a governor here of the only blue state that's represented up here. This is where the fight is really tough for Republicans. And those are the states that we're going to have to try to win if we're going to win the White House back. And what we did was 14 times, Dana, in 8 years, I vetoed Planned Parenthood funding. 14 times. No one else gets it that much. The Democrats just kept sending it to me, and I kept saying no because I believe in life, but I also believe in states' rights. And I think we fought hard against Roe versus Wade for decades to say that states should make these decisions. So we're going to have those fights in the states. But what you need is a leader who can talk to people and make them understand that if you're pro-life, you have to be pro-life for the entire life, not just the 9 months in the womb. And we talked a lot about fentanyl tonight, and we haven't spoken one moment about treatment. But we need to make sure that for the drug-addicted 16-year-old on the floor of the county lockup, her life is precious too. And we need to be providing treatment to cure this as a disease that it is. If you're pro-life, you got to be pro-life for the entire life. We start talking like that, they're going to do what I did in the blue state, which was get reelected with 61% of the vote and won 70% of independents and 51% of Latinos because I told them the truth from my heart.
Thank you. Vice President Pence. The latest Univision poll found that 73% of Latino voters think the Republican Party doesn't care about or is being hostile toward them, the Hispanic community. Only Governor DeSantis has translated his campaign into Spanish. How will you reach out to Latino voters?
Cleanse and exfoliate in one.
Well, she didn't really say why that Latino voters think that the Republicans are being hostile toward them. I mean, maybe it's because conservatives are against, illegal immigration, and maybe because they're so outspoken against it, and that what's happening at our border they're being even more outspoken against it. Maybe that's why they think that they're not on their side and they don't care. They're being quote unquote hostile toward them. Because that's not, if that's the case, that's not being hostile. That's just, having common sense and having having a basic understanding on how our laws work and, standing firm on that and not being swayed by, Latino voters who say otherwise. So if that's what they mean by being hostile, yeah, it's not really being hostile. So, yeah, we got another ad. Gotta skip.
With new Garnier Meissler Gentle Peeling Water, boosted with glycolic acid.
Got about 10 more minutes left. So, let's see. They're kind of repeating some of the subjects in the last debate.
Well, I promise you that we're going to continue to build bridges to every community in this country. And I'm incredibly proud of that tax cut and tax reform bill. I worked on Capitol Hill to help get that bill passed into law, the largest tax cut in American history. We saw literally the lowest unemployment ever recorded for Hispanic Americans, the lowest unemployment ever recorded for African Americans, 50-year low for women. So I think the President of the United States needs to be a champion for the American dream for every American. It begins with the unborn and the aged and the infirm. And it begins with every ethnic group in this country. And I promise you, if I'm President of the United States, I'll be a champion. I'll be a champion for the American dream, for Hispanic Americans, and for every American. So help me God.
Senator Scott, reaction?
Yes, there's no doubt that if you lead by example, it's the best way to get the job done. If you look at my office in the Senate, my chief of staff is the only Hispanic female chief of staff in the Senate. I hired her because she was the best, highest qualified person we have. What we need are leaders who lead by example. And I will simply say, I would love to finish my conversation with Nikki as it relates to the job that needs to get done. Nikki offered a 10-cent gas tax increase in South Carolina. Talk about someone who has never seen a federal dollar she doesn't like. 10 cents on this gallon in South Carolina. As the UN ambassador, you literally put $50,000 on curtains in a $15 million subsidized location. Next.
You got bad information. First of all, I fought the gas tax in South Carolina multiple times against the establishment.
Just go to YouTube.
Against the establishment.
Just go to
and
YouTube.
You want to know what that 10 cent was? When they wouldn't pass the gas tax, the establishment, the companies wanted me to do it so much that I said the only way I will
Here's what you have to do. All you have to do is go watch Nikki Haley on YouTube.
If you will give me 3 times the deduction in income tax, then I will look at your gas tax, which is why it didn't happen. Secondly, on the 50 million.
Here is a nice part.
Secondly, on the curtains, do your homework, Tim, because Obama bought those curtains.
Did you send them back?
It's in the press.
Did you send them back?
It's the State Department.
Did
you send them back? You're the one that works in Congress.
Oh my gosh.
You get it.
You hung them on your curtains.
They were there before I even showed up at the residence. You are scrapping. You are scrapping.
I'm not scrapping.
You know I fought taxes.
Here's the fact, though.
I cut taxes. I loaded up our
You wanted a gas tax increase. You
intend to go ahead like this. In fact, we're about to take a commercial break. We'll have more of the second Republican debate live from the Reagan Presidential Library in just a few moments.
Okay. I'm just gonna skip ahead to it. We got like 9 minutes now. Let's see. Okay. Oh, wait.
It doesn't pick and choose.
Okay. Oh, these ads are like really long. Yeah. I definitely not really impressed with this debate. Alright, let's see. Is that it? That might be it. I don't know. Okay, maybe they're just having closing.
On stage tonight should be voted off the island. Please use your marker to write your choice on the notepad in front of you. 15 seconds, starting now. Of the people on the stage, who should be? I'm absolutely serious.
With all due respect, I mean, we're here, like, we're happy to debate. I think that's disrespectful to my fellow competitors.
Nobody wants to participate.
Let's do some questions.
Yeah, what do we... Why are we playing these games? Like, who should be voted? Who should we vote out? Like, let's be adults and finish, like, the questions. Even if there's just a few more minutes left, let's finish asking questions. I'm glad they're being mature about this and, you know, not falling into these games. We got a few more minutes, like 3 more minutes. Let's see what questions.
Let me ask you something. If you won't answer that question, let me ask you this one. Yeah. What is your mathematical path,
Yes.
Governor DeSantis, in order to try to beat President Trump, who has a commanding and enduring lead in this race?
So polls don't elect presidents, voters elect presidents. Right. And we're going to take the case of the people in these early states. We're going to
Wait, polls don't elect presidents. Voters elect presidents, but the polls show what the voters want. They show what the these polls show what like the voters are like, saying. They show what they're saying. They reflect what the voters are saying. So for him to just like completely dismiss the polls when he himself, along with the other candidates, are relying on these polls, to see where they're at in the race, and then if they're elected, they'll also rely on these polls, like, to see if the American public is favorable of them or not. These polls are like important. You can't just like completely dismiss them, because they're like I said, they're a reflection of what the voters are thinking and saying in these polls. So, yeah, they do have a lot of weight when it comes to. I mean, yeah, like voters, they elect the president, but like the polls also play a role. So, yeah.
the state by state direction. And why? Because as Reagan said in his day, this is our time for choosing. We are not getting a mulligan on the 2024 election. Republicans have lost 3 straight elections in a row. We were supposed to have a red wave with inflation at 9%. It crashed and burned. Not in Florida, it didn't. We delivered it in Florida. And so we've got to choose right. We've got to win. And we need somebody that's going to be able to serve 2 terms. So in January of 2023, they'll be able to address the nation saying, we turned the economy around, we secured the border, and we fended off the threat from communist China. As your president, I will get that job done.
Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something. Governor Christie, I believe, excuse me, Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something on the card.
No, but I'll certainly tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, look, I think I've been the only one on this stage who's been clear about this. I vote Donald Trump off the island right now. And the reason I vote him off the island,
any of the people on the
because
stage,
you know what? Every person on this stage has shown the respect for Republican voters to come here to express their views honestly, candidly, and directly, and to take your questions honestly. I have respect for every man and woman on this stage because they've done it. Vivek, put your hand down for a second, would you? I still got time, dude.
Nobody likes
chill
this
out.
guy.
Here, look. This guy has not only divided our party, he's divided families all over this country. He's divided friends all over this country. I've spoken to people, and I know everyone else has, who have sat at Thanksgiving dinner or at a birthday party and can't have a conversation anymore if they disagree with Donald Trump. He needs to be voted off the island, and he needs to be taken out of this process.
Can we get 15 seconds?
15 seconds.
Look, I have a different view on this. I think Trump was an excellent president, but the America First agenda does not belong to one man. It does not belong to Donald Trump. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you, the people of this country. And the question is, who's going to unite this country and take the America First agenda to the next level? When we...
Okay. It got cut off there, but that's pretty much it. So I don't know what else he had to say about that. He's getting cut off throughout the whole video pretty much. Now he just got cut off there. So I don't know if that was done on purpose or not, but at least he acknowledged that President Trump was in fact an excellent president. I agree with that. So yeah, that's it. I sat through another 2 hours of another debate, and I don't know where we're at now with the debates. I don't know who's gonna debate next. I don't think we still haven't had the Democratic debate. I don't think. So yeah, that was my reaction. Hope you liked it.